Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show, Garry and Richard are back, and we've got lots to talk about. We've got new builds of Windows to talk about. We'll be talking about Raspberry Pi, some smart home stuff, some music tech stuff, and lots more. So let's get straight to Richard and Garry. Richard, Garry, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, and welcome back. So we had a different show last week as we talked synthesizers, but yeah, it was good to get you back.
It was a good show last week. I enjoyed it. I listened to it in the car yesterday.
Yeah, we're going to do another one when what we discovered that his Teams is really good at noise cancelling.
Hold on a second. I must admit, I've never heard the word Teams is really good in the same sentence before, unless there's a not in there somewhere.
Yes, well, it turns out it's really good at noise cancelling. So we had it set up so he could hear his synths, but the Teams completely removed them. It's had the Teams algorithm, to be fair, is really good. I was in a server room, so you can imagine how busy server rooms like a noisy, a small noisy server room with fans going and everything else. And the other side of the call didn't know I was in a server; they just thought I was in a quiet office. It's uncannily good at removing sort of background noise like that. The algorithms are pretty good for that, but not when you're trying to demonstrate stuff. So we've got to try and think of a better way around that. And sort that out. So yeah, we'll do that in the we'll do that in the future. So anyway, good to have you back. So Richard, you've been away as well. You were at some other trade conference or something else.
Yeah, I was. I went to HashiConf, and which is basically sort of HashiCorp, which is an infrastructure as code company conference, and also obviously before that I was at KubeCon. But I think I may have been back in between those two. I can't remember now. I seem to have spent a lot of time in airplanes. So yes, but I'm back now briefly. But I think I might be going to another Kubernetes conference second week in November. So back for a couple of weeks at least.
Well, that's good to know. Well, we've got plenty to catch up on. We've got some build news as well. We've got some smart home type stuff. So I've got a couple of the videos that I've done as well, and I've got a new track which I'm going to play out with at the end of the show as well. So if you like your synthwave, I've gone full out 80s retro synthwave on a new track as well. So that's on Spotify as well. So first, we're just talking smart home. I have got a new light from Twinkly. You may be able to see it in the background there. That's flashing away there. Yeah, Twinkly. So these are called Twinkly candies, and you can see the small little star-shaped lights, and they're like the other Twinkly app. So it learns the placement. So you use your phone. So you place these wherever is suitable. So they're on the two strips that are on there, and you see they're quite long actually because I've run them around the sort of there twice. They've got a single USB-C plug on the other side, so you need to plug it into a USB-C power adapter. And then with the app, you do this mapping. I might have shown this on other. I think you see it on other lights nowadays, but yeah. So there you can see the virtual map of those lights. So it knows where to do the pattern. So if I go and choose, say, this one, fireworks, it knows where they are to run them up. So rather than just thinking they're a single strip, it's addressing them to the right location. So you get that sort of effect that you've got on there. You can see that's the fireworks one. And I've got one snake. Little snake game, and you can have sort of a diagonal pattern. So it's really good that it's really nice. I like this one, the vintage one, which is the flashing computer lights. So you can see it on there. So they're really nice. But when I was pressing, it's 49 quid on there. They connect over Wi-Fi, or you can use Bluetooth or Wi-Fi direct, or just your home Wi-Fi. And then you've got all these different effects which you've got there. And of course, once it comes to Christmas, these would be great on your Christmas tree. You can get those around. And there's two ways of doing the mapping as well. So you can do a single 2D layout, or you can go into an advanced mode and you actually take multiple shots with your phone, and it creates a 3D map around it. So if you imagine having it spiraling around your Christmas tree, it understands where they are, and then you get those effects on there. So, but for 49 quid, they're actually quite nice. They're very bright as well, and there's plenty of cable on them as well. So I thought they're quite nice fun. The only criticism I would say is, like I mentioned, there's no plug. You've got to get your own USB-C adapter, but I guess most of us have got those lying around nowadays, as you know, from phone for using phone chargers and that kind of thing. Oh, and you can sync it up to music as well, so it uses your phone. I don't know, it'll do it now, but if it uses your phone, as you can see, it's flashing with my talking. In fact, if you get the one that I really liked, was if you get the old school vintage one and sync that up with your phone, it with the audio, it's giving you that sort of computer, like sci-fi 70s computer retro effect, almost, you know, like a Dalek or something. You know, the way that flashes. So yeah, I really like them. I was quite impressed with them. So yeah, so thanks for Twinkly for sending those. I've also already got some Twinkly ones that for my Christmas lights for outside, and a LCD LED panel that I've got up there as well. So quite a nice effect. I guess, Gary, there's loads of these things around now, but I just found those quite easy to get set up and
yeah,
get
I think
with it.
a lot of people rate the twinkly ones as being very easy to use, which is good. There's quite a few. I mean, there's quite a lot of these addressable LED things out there. There's a whole WLED sort of open source set of light systems out there which you can use, and lots of other options out there. But that looks a very easy app to use.
Yes, it definitely is, and you can. You know, I've got the LED light strip that I control from a Raspberry Pi, but it hasn't got the concept of the mapping, that it just addresses them. You'd have to come out somehow, sort that yourself out. So this is simple, but yeah, for somebody just to plug this in, wrap it around your Christmas tree, take some pictures, it's mapped straight away. Or even if you're just having it in your studio for a bit of vintage sci-fi effect while you're recording or whatever. So yeah, I quite like those. Oh, and talking of Raspberry Pi, Richard, did you say the Raspberry Pi 5 is now available?
Oh yes, yeah. So yeah, the Pi 5, which I think I spoke about many weeks ago, that's now hit the channel, and I think unless you had a pre-order, you're not going to get one, because they opened up a bunch of pre-orders back when it was first announced. Right. I guess that stock went pretty much on the spot. They're making them at the rate, I think, about 30,000 a week, and they're hoping to up that to 50,000 a week to try and keep up. So you might get one by Christmas if you order one now. Otherwise, it's started to look like next year. So be aware. I mean, there are tools like RPA locator that will help you find stock, but at the moment there's going to be a lead time. But if you pre-ordered one when the announcement was made, it should be appearing in the next few days, if not already, which is good news. And I think the ancillary stuff like cases and power supplies and coolers and things are all available. Although I think, Gary, as we discussed last time, it's still quite expensive, so I'm not quite sure exactly who it's for. It's quite expensive. Runs well though, but I think it does run hot. I've been playing with the new official case, and that, again, you'll be unsurprised now, has a blooming great fan inside it. So yeah, it's that they may say it can be run without an active fan, but yeah, I'm not sure you'd want to really. It does get hot. It does get really hot, which is, being in my shed in the British winter is quite nice actually. Let's all gather around the Raspberry Pi and warm our hands over the impressively fast CPU. Well, one thing I would say though. I don't know if I mentioned last time that I had a few weird freezes. I had a replacement unit which appears to have cured that, so I can now run it without a fan, and it doesn't freeze. It apparently throttles, but even when it's running at its highest temperature, which is when throttling starts, which is around the 80 to 85 degrees Celsius mark, which is pretty hot, things like YouTube and ordinary productivity apps still seem to keep on working as though nothing's happening. So I think because it's so much faster, even when it's throttling, you don't notice it if you're using it for normal stuff. Yeah. However, goodness me, it does get hot if you use it hard. So I would strongly advise you, if you've got one on order, you're going to need some form of cooling solution, because goodness me, it gets hot, and I wouldn't like to run these unattended. Whereas I've got a Pi 4 that sits quite happily on the stairs doing Pi hole things. I wouldn't actually like to leave the Pi 5 unattended. Perhaps that's just me being paranoid about nothing. It's very subjective. But it feels so hot that I'd be worried to run it. And as soon as you have to run it with a fan, you've introduced a moving part into the equation. So unattended usage starts to worry me a bit. But hey, maybe that's just me.
Yeah, it looks nice, but like you said, you do wonder who's going to use it now, because it's kind of the use case of it is sort of narrowed somewhat.
Well, exactly, yes. I mean, if you get it and you also get the official case, you're starting to get close to the £100 mark, and it's like that stops being an impulse purchase, and it stops being so easy to equip classrooms with them. It's getting quite expensive, and it's getting quite close to more. Two machines that are perhaps more functional. It's just starting to feel expensive. I know it's not a big price, but it's one of those. It's not a big price increase, but it's one of those sort of death by 100 increases. It just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. And so that's now getting quite expensive now. Although I have to say, it's a very powerful bit of kit.
Yeah, and I guess that question I asked about who's its target audience is kind of by the by when it sells out in 10 seconds.
Well, yeah, but the stock was. I mean, obviously, it sells out in 10 seconds, but stock was quite constrained. I mean, there were only, I think, 100,000 units at launch, so that went very fast. And they think they'll be in a position where they'll be able to at least fulfill the orders of the approved resellers by the end of the year, which means that if you order one now, you should get it by Christmas. If you leave it, you probably won't get one until next year. Although I gather, if you go into the shop in Cambridge, UK, I think they'll be on the shelves.
Yeah, they sort of kept some back for those, which makes sense. So.
Well, I mean, much like the Pi 4, you could normally pick up that from the Cambridge shop as well, but of course you can't really phone ahead, and there are limits to how many you can buy, and then there's the whole issue of can you even get to Cambridge. We should go again soon. We should go soon.
Yes, it was good that. Yeah, it's a great device, and I have seen a few people now building some sort of micro synths using it, but I don't necessarily think you even need the power of the 5. But the 5.
I mean, the 5 is a proper workstation class machine now, and it's I was running Ubuntu on it, and it's very, very fast. When I say very fast, it feels like a normal computer, whereas if you're running Pi 4 based stuff, it's a nice bit of kit, but you are aware of the fact it's not as quick or speedy as other machines. But the Pi 5 I would say can hold its own, particularly if you go for the 8 gig version, but then you are paying a lot more money for it. So
yeah, that's it. But it's certainly a nice little device. So what to go on to next? So we're talking about running. Has anybody tried running Windows on it? Do you know?
I don't think so. Well, I think that aside from the press, I don't think many have filtered out into the hands of ordinary people. So I would expect we'd start seeing some of the homebrew things in the next month or so. Now they're actually hitting the channels. So because I mean, I'm quite keen to see what homebrew stuff comes out. I also want to see what the RetroPie team do with it, because that amount of power opens up a whole load more of emulation. Although the Pi 4 was pretty good at that. But I mean, I am intrigued to see if you can run Windows on ARM on it. That would be very interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to try that. Yeah.
Because again, 8 gigs, that sort of speed, it's probably going to be usable. I mean, I gather speaking to Even Upton that they would be up for it if Microsoft wants to talk to the Pi team. They would actually be up for making it work. It's just I think the issue was it around DirectX? I think was the main challenging thing, and I think that's may have been partially addressed by all the Vulkan work they did. Garry might know a lot more than me about the technicals around there, but I think it should be an easier thing to make work now, hopefully. I want to say easy. Obviously, I could never do it, but I know the people that make things work on these machines are incredibly clever. So perhaps they'll have more success.
Easy is always relative, but yeah, it should be slightly.
So could you not port your Pi 4 Windows image? Well, not port, just put your hard drive into a Pi 5. Was that not going to work?
I don't think so, no, because there's been sufficient hardware changes in the Pi 5 that I doubt much stuff that targets the Pi 4 is going to work. I wouldn't guarantee it at all. I mean, some things will work, but I mean, an awful lot's changed between the 5 and 4. I mean, they're now running their own silicon and I know that the Raspberry Pi OS has also had to have some fairly major changes and updates around the drivers to handle the new silicon. But again, I wouldn't rule out what the homebrew people will come up with, because they're just a bunch of very clever individuals.
There was I'm trying to remember the I had a tool that installed that built the image for you, and I can't remember what it was called now. I'll have to see if I can dig it out. But yeah, it was a little install that you would do, and you would go off and grab the things and did the drivers and everything you do. So yep. I'll have to have a look, but see if I can find that again. But yeah,
I'm sure there'll be a Pi 5 version of that before long.
Yeah, I'm sure there will. Yeah, it's great to try this stuff on there. Which certainly it would be nice to see if Microsoft would have an interest in ARM, because other than the dev box doesn't seem to be getting much love at the moment.
It doesn't, although again, this is breaking news, I guess. But did you see the Snapdragon X Elite announcement?
Oh, that's the new chip, isn't it? That's coming out. That's supposed to be really powerful, isn't it?
I mean, supposedly, yeah, obviously it depends how they're measuring it, but they say it's potentially quicker than the than Apple's M2 chip, and would in theory be powered by would in theory power Windows laptops maybe in 2024, possibly. I mean, if that's true, then great. I mean, I must admit, I was not convinced that Microsoft had much love for Windows on ARM for the desktop at all, but I'm rather hoping I'll be proved wrong.
Yeah, I hope so. And does that mean we'll see a Surface Go running ARM next year?
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, I do hope so. I just hope it doesn't lose sight of one of the things that the Windows and ARM always promised, which was epic battery life while still being performant. Because obviously one of the the big differentiators between an ARM-based machine and an Intel-based machine was the power consumption, really. So I'm rather hoping that that will be preserved, because if they end up making it go really fast, but it runs down just as fast, and it's not so good. So yeah. I guess we'll have to see what actually comes out in real hardware and what the benchmarks look like. But that's could potentially be a shot on the arm for Windows and ARM. I do hope so.
Yeah. I hope so, and I hope that gives the Surface team a bit of impetus to bring out some new devices, because as we discussed a few weeks ago, they're getting a bit stayed, I think, with what they've got. Good, nice products and great, and I've got the Go. I'm really enjoying the Go. It's nice to have a little tablet back, really, from the one that wasn't working. So. But yeah, I want to see a bit of innovation, and ARM-based device with massive long battery life would be great. The battery life, I found it's really hard to measure, because I only use it sort of random periods. So it's not a device I sit with all day and use it. But I think I last charged it on Thursday, and I've used it for meetings and a couple of evenings, and then I used it in the morning for a couple of hours and whatever. So I guess I am getting sort of a full 12 hours maybe out of it before charging it up. But that's, like I say, it's very sporadic use of it. But yeah, I do like it. So, but it's exactly the same as the other Surface Go I had, which just this just works better. But it works really. It's really quick actually and responsive. But yeah. I'm only using it for OneNote and browsing and a bit of words. But yeah, it does that job well. It's just a shame that Microsoft don't think that consumers are interested in that.
No, well, I guess the Microsoft brand is now not really a consumer brand at all anymore, is it? Really, they've I mean, the Xbox conspicuously is the only consumer player they have now, I think, really, don't they?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, they sell lots of Windows 11 home licenses, but yes. In terms of what these they're on products, yeah. And interesting, as I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, this comes with Windows 11 Pro, not Home, which is why there's the price difference. Yeah.
Yes, you had to go for the business purchase, which again was just really odd why they would do that. I mean, is that still the same case now, or have they fixed that yet?
No, you can buy the Go 3 with Home, or if you want the 4, you've got to buy the business one.
That's such a strange thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because I know a few people that have said, "Oh, I was going to get one," but you're paying for that Pro license, which I don't even I would consider myself a power user, but I'm not sure I really need the Pro license for this. I like the Pro and I don't join domain with my personal stuff, but I do like the remote desktop type. The being able to RDP onto it, but there's not a huge amount of pull for the Pro stuff on a small device like this, unless you're in enterprise, and then of course you want to get it on your domain and everything else. So that makes sense for that. But I just don't understand why they just don't sell two versions of it, one with Pro and one with Home. It just makes it would be so easy. A fancy box and Home, and a plain box and Pro. It just seems there mustn't be demand. That's all I can think of. Or maybe support. They don't want to support it. I don't know. But they sell all the other ones with Home, so why not that one? Demand, it's got to be, hasn't it?
It's just really weird. It's just really weird. But yeah, it is a shame. But I guess the problem is that with that form factor, they are up against devices like the iPad, which has got a much greater mind share.
Yeah. And that's it. Exactly. And no other manufacturers are making devices that size either, so that perhaps says something about the market. I mean, I think Samsung do a Windows device that's similar size, but it's quite expensive. And even their Android ones. I mean, a few years ago you could get Windows tablets, Android, iPads, and now it just seems to be, iPads maybe cheap. The cheaper end is on. You can get some Android ones like the Kindle type stuff, but or the Fire tablets. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be that demand for them. But for me, it works great, but I guess not for everybody. But you mentioned about sort of consumers that. There's an article you've seen about Microsoft's sales, Satya Nadella, saying that killing Windows Phone was a mistake.
Oh yeah, I saw this on Windows Central actually. This is I think they were quoting an interview which was done. I think it was Matthias Davner. He interviewed Satya Nadella, and amongst other things, Nadella was asked, what his regrets were, and one of which was basically the manner in which Windows Phone was killed off, which is I think interesting because I mean, I think it was a mistake when they killed it. I think his take has been looking back on it, the way it was done. Was perhaps not the smartest move in the world, and there was potential to perhaps reinvent that space, which they tried to with the Duo, but by then I think it was too late, really, as we've seen. So with Windows Phone, they had a platform. They perhaps just didn't invest in it enough, didn't give it enough a space to actually grow before it was very, very quickly and very suddenly axed. And obviously, we all remember when that happened. It was a bit of a shock when it happened, although the writing had been on the wall for a while, and it kind of limped into Windows 10. But I think had it been supported a bit better, or they'd looked at doing more Duo-like form factors, and we all saw the leaked prototype stuff that were looking around, I think it would have been a very exciting device. So just interesting to see Nadella being perhaps a bit reflective about Windows Phone in between, obviously, all the excitement around AI and Copilot.
Yeah, while killing off other consumer programs as they go along.
Yes, strangely, he didn't mention Media Center at all. I don't know why.
Yeah. Of course, Media Center's back now anyway. Kind of.
It's not really back at all. It just looks a bit like it.
Yeah, exactly. We did get we've had a few builds and things recently. I think we're gearing up for a 23H2 release. I've got a feeling it's coming soon.
It's got to be this week, isn't it? Now, surely, because it's going to be like imminent. It's been on the inside of the ring for a while, but it's got to be surely rolled out now. I don't know, soon.
Yeah, I think so. The only thing consumers will notice is I think there's a change in settings, something like that. There's the system information page in settings. I think that's about it. But all the feature has already shipped in the previous last month's non-build update. So it's not really much of a. In fact, if you take it, it's a service pack, isn't it? That's what it is. It's a featureless service pack that they're gonna do. I remember going back to the days when Microsoft said they were gonna. Do you remember when they first said they were going to split them out and have feature packs and service packs, and the two things would be separate? That was about, I don't know, Windows 2000 timeframe or something like that. Maybe it was NT4 or something. Maybe it was after that XP type time. Anyway, that's what this is. I think this is just a roll up of all the under the hood features. Some platform improvements and things like that, and a couple of bits and pieces that will come into it, some casting improvements and things like that. But the rest of it is just really has already shipped, so it's not going to be an exciting big release. I kind of miss those days of it's the next update to Windows is coming soon. I think it's a bit of a shame we've lost that bit of excitement from.
I mean, do you think this will be the last major update before Windows 12?
Who knows? I'm not sure about this strategy anymore. And maybe I don't even think Microsoft does sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. Does it make sense to? It's just a marketing thing now, isn't it? Rather than a technical change. I know, Gary, there's lots of AI type stuff that they could, with machine learning, that they could bring to Windows. Maybe they'll rebrand it with that.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I was at Microsoft Build AI last week, and obviously everything is a co-pilot. You get a co-pilot, I get a co-pilot, everybody gets a co-pilot. And Windows obviously has a co-pilot already, which isn't particularly exciting at the moment, but you could see possibilities for it to get more exciting. And some of the stuff I was seeing there was very interesting. I think one of the more interesting things I actually played with there was, and I noticed eBay started doing this now, is an automatic sales listing generator. So you basically give it the title of your product and some little bit of information, and it goes off and writes a blurb for you, which is quite interesting. Yeah, so all eBay's blurbs have suddenly got way better. They're no longer it's this. I mean, it used to be sort of like you'd see a listing for an iPad, and it said it's an iPad in the description. Now it would say Apple's finest iPad, brought to you deep in Silicon Valley, or whatever. But it gives a much better job of it. And those sort of drudge things, I could see them integrating into Windows a bit. Some of the stuff you do time and time again in Windows, it could learn your habits and try to repeat them, like starting a Teams call 3 times. It could automate that for you.
Yeah,
that would be a more useful co-pilot.
Yes, yeah, it would. Yeah, so maybe that would be Windows 12, maybe Windows 11 reimagined. You just don't know how they're going to take that, but it seems that it's more about marketing now than technical, I guess. Although the AI stuff is obviously, and the machine learning is technical, but I think the branding is very much marketing led now, isn't it? Which I suppose you could say back to Vista and XP it was, but then it seemed like a big change in the platform, and from Windows 10 to Windows 11, it wasn't really that much of a change. It was more of a polish and a new looking UI. But who knows? But it would be nice to see something and get some testing of some stuff like that. But once 23H2 is out, then that's when the channels should all start looking for the next thing. Canary builds. We did have a Canary build last week, and that did have some changes to it, and I guess the Canary is what would be the next update to Windows 11 or Windows 12. I'm trying to think what that had in it. There's a Bluetooth improvements for Bluetooth LE accessibility features. So if you've got a hearing aid that uses Bluetooth LE, I think you can directly connect it to Windows now, and you can stream media and that kind of thing. And they said that they're going to be doing more with that as well in the future. So maybe that's the kind of platform changes that will become next year, and that'll be part of the next version of Windows or the next big update to Windows. But it's good to see them improving the accessibility support. So maybe that's where we're starting to see some things coming through the Canary channel now for things that are going to be interesting in the future. But these last few updates, in fact, I've skipped a few dev builds because there was really nothing in them at all. But the Canary ones finally got some changes in, so I did do videos on those.
I mean, the problem is they've got to do something in them, because at the moment, I mean, Windows 11 market share is flatlining. It's just not increasing, and Windows 10 is still king. So people aren't seeing any particular reason to upgrade, which could be a major problem in a year or so's time.
Yes, but when the Windows 10's out of support, is it 25?
25, yeah. So
Yeah.
we're now less than two years away from when Windows 10 in theory will stop getting updates. In theory.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So,
I mean, and I mean at this point in its life cycle, and I know it's very different in terms of the environment that we're in, but Windows 10 was moving up fast, whereas Windows 11 at the same point, it doesn't seem to be. I'm just not seeing. Looking at the various stats out there, I'm just not seeing increases in usage. I mean, perhaps there'll be a big old hardware refresh the next 2 years. I hope there is, because right now Windows 11 just doesn't seem to be exciting the market. People aren't moving to it, which is a bit of a concern because you have less than 2 years to go.
And I suppose it's just that people would just get it when they get new machines, and there's not a huge, as we've talked about previously, there's not a huge impetus to get new machines because there's nothing out there really forcing people to upgrade the machines. Most Windows 10 machines are still pretty capable. They're probably working quite well, so it's just a trickle of the general update cycle rather than a big new innovation. Maybe Windows 12 has some innovation and it requires a neural processor in it that drives some hardware sales, because to get Windows 12 you've got to have one of these things with a special process for the AI. Maybe that would be the kind of thing that would change it, but I just can't see that for people to rush out and buy them. I mean, even look, we took iPads. People have still got old iPads because they just keep working until Apple kill the OS or they kill the battery in them or whatever. But they just carry on working, don't they? And all that technology, there's not huge leaps now, so maybe we're waiting for something like that AI to really push the hardware that you need some a hardware refresh. One interesting thing I did find out, that there is some new under the hood MIDI and multimedia type driver stuff coming to Windows next year. And that'll be in the Insider program next year. So whether that's part of Windows 11 or Windows 12, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, they are working on some stuff like that. So I was talking to somebody the other day. So it's interesting that there is stuff going on in the background. You just don't necessarily hear about it. And maybe as insiders, we'll get to test that next year. I think that was the plan, was to get into test next year. But yeah, this is because MIDI 2.0 is out, and there's a whole the whole issue with backwards compatibility, so to make sure that they don't break existing things already. So that's why there's a lot of work going on that. But yeah, so there is things coming, new features coming, but it just depends how they market it.
Although let's face it, MIDI is kind of very much in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's why I was. Yeah. I mean, anyway, MIDI is the communication technology that you use to connect a synthesizer to a drum machine or your computer to a synthesizer. It dates back to sort of 1982 with the big round DIN sockets, which are still using. Many of these things are all connected up by those things. A lot of devices, like the modern ones, like the modern way I've got, uses USB, but it's still MIDI over USB. So USB 2 has just been finalized. Microsoft are a member of the USB. So the MIDI 2.0 has been finalized. Microsoft are a member of MIDI 2.0. Don't know what the correct term is, authority or steering group or whatever, but Microsoft are involved in that as well. So yeah, so this is a new, much more advanced protocol. But in terms of computer protocols, I mean, current fans, there aren't many technologies protocol technologies we're using now that were invented in 1982. So yeah, it stood the test of time. But anyway, finally we've got version 2 out soon as well. So I did see some stuff is starting to come out with it. So when I was at Synthfest, there was a keyboard there that had MIDI 2.0, and it supports a lot more things like real-time controls with two-way communications. I think that seems to be a big part of it. So you start to see this
two-way comms is the big thing on MIDI 2.0.
Yeah, Yeah, so if I can transmit a dial from one synth to another, but you can get controllers that will actually understand where you've changed it to, and the software will send it back so that you can. There's that two-way communication, so I think that's going to be quite interesting. Oh, by the way, I don't ever talk to you. Oh, Synthfest was great as well. I don't know if I talked since then, but I really enjoyed that trip to Sheffield, and all the videos are on the YouTube channel, and some of the talks which I didn't film are on the Sound on Sound YouTube channel as well. So make sure to check out those, especially if you're interested in 40 years of the DX7. The full talk is on there, which I've got a few clips of on my video, but yeah, the full talk's on there, so check that out as well. And there's a MIDI 2.0 thing on there as well. Okay, so what have we have to talk about this week? Oh, just talking MIDI as well. I have done another update to my Korg video for MIDI. I've since found out, I've mentioned this a few times in the past, I have a video on how to fix Korg issues with MIDI, and it turns out really a lot of it's been fixed, but it's just if you just use the Windows 11 drivers rather than installing the specific Korg one. So I've done a little video update on that one. So it seems that Windows just supports these things out of the box. You start to install the Korg drivers and then you get the issues. So if you can avoid installing the Korg drive, just use the standard MIDI ones, use the standard Windows 11 ones, then you should be fine. So that solves a lot of those issues. Okay, yeah, anything. What else did we have to talk about? Garry, anything over on the smart home or EV news? Oh, I've got one smart home to tell you, but go ahead.
Yeah, I've got one smart home because I did mention this last time I was on the show. So the almost immediately after I mentioned the Aqara FP2 sensor and the fact it needed a firmware update, they issued a firmware update. So I think it was the next day. So they must have listened to the show, and it does fix some of the ghost issues, although people are still seeing ghosts. So this is the sensor which sort of detects movement and breathing and heartbeats, and so you can actually identify people in the room. But apparently I never saw the early firmware in operation, but apparently the early firmware was a lot better at actually detecting people leaving the room, whereas this one seems to leave a trace even after a while. So, but it has got better. Apparently, it's an even newer version of firmware due to come out, which does actually sound really interesting because it's going to do proper sleep tracking. So obviously, if you can detect breathing and detect heartbeat, you could do a lot of really clever stuff around sleep tracking. And this is going to be a useful sleep tracker. Also, very expensive sleep trackers. These things are 70, 80 quid to buy. But yeah, definitely an interesting movement on that. So that was good. So yeah, what was your smart home thing?
Oh, it's just I got a new Sonos. I didn't do a video on this, but I wish I had now because I had to replace my old Sonos because I'm redoing the kitchen, and the separate Sonos and Alexa have been banned in the house. So one of the reasons when we were putting the kitchen design in, I put in the budget for a new Sonos because my wife doesn't like having the show and the Alexa and the show and the old Sonos Play 3. So I got one of the Sonos Era 100s. I don't know if you've seen those, the newer ones, that little sort of cone, not cone, cylindrical speakers, but they've got the Alexa built into it. I know they've had those for a while, but it's the first time I've actually got to play with it. But it actually works out really well. So it does simplify the whole thing with using the Sonos and the Alexa, because you used to tell the Alexa to control the Sonos and whatever, but now it's in one device. I don't know how long they've had the setting, but you can preset your favorite music provider. Garry, has that been for a while? I feel like it has, but I think it has been for a while. Well, yeah. Because I used to always have to say on, play Ian Dixon on Sonos, on Spotify, but the defaults in there I just didn't realize. So I've set, going through the setup process, I realized. But the integration between the Alexa and the Sonos being in that one box works really well. So you've got one speaker that does that. So the Echo Show has gone and is up here, and the Play 3 is out, and now I've just got that single compact Era 100. It sounds brilliant, really good sound. But the Alexa side of it is really well done, which perhaps is why we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Garry, about litigation, why Amazon have not been had any litigation from Sonos. I think that probably explains it, because they've already got all these deals worked out.
Yeah, and it's interesting actually, because we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, and Google won the second or third round of that set of legal challenges. I know Sonos are going back to court on it, but Google almost immediately started to reinstate that multi-room functionality in their Google speakers, or the next Nest speakers, I should say. So I did sort of debate whether they would do that, but then it was almost next day they actually started rolling that back out again, and pretty seamlessly as well. So lots of happy customers of Google out there who use the Google Home system.
Yeah.
Or their system.
So I'm quite happy with my little my purchase on there. So yeah, it's cost a lot less than the ovens and the other bits and pieces, so I got away with that one. Anything on the EV side, Garry, that we've got to catch up on?
There's been a whole lot of consternation about Instavolt's price rise. They went up to 85p per kilowatt, while other people are going down in price, which seems an interesting move. I know they have a reputation for reliability and being in place, and they are funding a big expansion. So I guess that might be part of it. But that was a little bit shocking, because they didn't even email their regular customers that they were putting it up, which seemed like a bit of a strange one. And that's quite an expensive bit charging, especially when with Tesla starting to open up their charges to more comers, and they're around about the 40p kilowatt mark, and some discount deals out there for other charges. So that was interesting. And
of course, if you charge at home, it's even cheaper.
That's a lot cheaper. Yes, indeed. I guess you're doing somehow.
Me? Oh, yes, I am. Yes, yeah. I have no EV news at all, which is as it should be. It's just working really well. The only news I have got is my old car came back, and I had to fill the tank up for the first time in a long time, and I was very surprised at how expensive it cost to put a tank of gas in. Although it was put out to me that it took me 2 minutes to fill that tank up for a lot of money, versus a lot longer for the EV for a lot less money.
Yes.
I would probably should mention that the EVs burst into flames a lot less than petrol cars do. With all the latest news,
but it doesn't make a good news story, that does it?
It doesn't make a good news story.
It does not make a good news story at all.
And I know that when electric cars do go up and the batteries do go up, which is going to be very, very rare, because they spend a lot of time protecting those battery packs, they do burn for a lot longer, and the fire brigade have to take special precautions about that. But they are aware of that, and they're not expecting to see too many of them. I spoke to someone I know who works in the fire service, and they were saying that actually electric cars will probably be a good thing for them, because they do answer an awful lot of car fires. Surprising number. You actually start looking into the stats. So it's interesting.
It's funny. It's just one of those things, isn't it? That it makes a good story in the Express or whatever paper, online paper that is trying to get some clicks. But it's just
Yeah, well, as I say, I mean, mine has been tediously reliable and efficient. I've got no complaints at all, which is why I'm saying nothing about it. It's just working really well.
And have you got used to the features and all the controls and mappings and everything else?
Oh, good Lord, no! But that's my problem. That's not the car's. It's the car is very clever, as to be frank, all modern cars are. There are many things. I had to rent a base level Volkswagen Polo last week, and even that had all bells and whistles that I found very irritating. But that's very much my problem, not the cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's a generational thing as well. So when your kids are driving, they'll be fine with it. Well,
indeed. I mean, my ancient Mark 1 Golf I drove today, and it was lovely, because you put the key in and it just worked the way it went. And that was just lovely. Whereas a modern car does many more things to kind of stop you doing silly things, I will say. I mean, I guess if I was to whinge about one thing, it is with the Kia in particular. I don't know how much this applies to other cars, but the whole speed sensing thing is just it just gets it wrong so much. Where
they do. I mean, a few years back we were talking about the automatic speed limiters, and it was becoming compulsory. I noticed that's been a bit pushed back now, and that's probably because the technology is just not there to do it.
It would need to be because one. I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if it even used a map, but it doesn't. It seems to use its sensors, and it just sometimes it misses the signs, and then it says, no, I'm pretty sure this is definitely a 30 here. It's like, it's not. It's a 70. We're on a motorway now. You've got to stop thinking that. So no. And if you put on cruise control, I'm going to slow you right down for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. You can turn that off, but yeah,
I have, yes.
Yeah. And I honestly think that and most people use the same. Most of the major car manufacturers use the same suppliers for that technology. It's an off-the-shelf tech to do the speed camera recognition, speed side camera recognition, not speed camera. And it's just shockingly poor in the UK. It's actually better in some other countries because how the signage is done in some other countries makes it easier with begin and end of speed limits and things which we don't tend to have. And our reliance on things like street lights mean something if you haven't got another sign. And also we have this which a lot of countries would find an absolutely crazy rule that once the speed limit comes on, you have to repeat the sign every so many miles, otherwise the speed limit is null and void from that point onwards, and you go back to national, depending on the situation. So there's a lot of things. So that's one of the ones I do find quite frustrating, and has been in every car I've driven with this technology, is that you're going down a motorway which has got a 50 limit on cruise on auto limiter in a bit of roadworks, and they've forgotten to put the repeater sign on, and your car suddenly decides it's going, I can go now, it's 70, I'm going to get going. and then you go across the speed camera and it turns you on. But yeah, that's one of the issues there. But I mean, at least they do take account of the UK regs and try and get them in place, but it's not the best.
But again, I'm not going to necessarily blame the car for that. I'm going to say that's more operator error.
It's infrastructure as well, isn't it?
Well, as someone pointed out to me, the only real way to do it properly would be have transponders in the speed limit signs, and have them make sure. And if the transponder wasn't working right, you couldn't be prosecuted. Would be the only way to do it properly. And I think that could come.
I think the key thing here, though, is that's not an EV issue; it's just a car issue. Full stop.
It's a car issue generally. Yeah, it's definitely not an EV issue. I mean, EVs make it actually slightly easier to adjust speed to a limit, because the car doesn't have to worry about gearing and the like. But it's so it tends to be a bit of a smoother experience than on some cars. I can't remember what I was driving. I hired something. It was one of the sort of big brands, Mercedes or BMW or something like that, and was using the auto cruise control on it, and it came across a stretch of motorway which was, I think, at 40 for some reason, and it literally slammed on the brakes to get down from 70 to 40. It was like, okay, that's not a comfortable experience. So yeah, you're right. It's a car problem, not a EV issue.
Garry, one question for you, because I should know this, and I'm going to ask you now, because I'm going to show the fact that I've not read the complete manual properly. When EVs are doing regen braking, so they basically will, they'll go into regen mode and they'll slow down very quickly. Do they put the brake lights on?
Yes, it depends on G-force. So there is a regulation about that. If you're decelerating beyond a certain G-force, you have to show the red lights in the back.
Okay.
So you're braking, which is a good thing. Otherwise, people would
exactly? Because I use regen mode all the time. I do one pedal driving. I mean, Mrs. Speed, she likes to drive either car as it always has done. She likes to use a brake and the gas pedal and things and turn off the regen. Me, I like it in full on regen mode, so I can see that battery going. Never wear down the brakes. It's fantastic. But I did think, I wonder if the brake lights are going on right now, because I'm slowing down very quickly.
They are.
That makes sense. Yeah, because that's on. You see it on the on Formula 1 cars. So they have the flashing light to show they're in regen mode, and they don't have brake lights in Formula 1, but they still thought that the deceleration from the regen was enough to warrant to make it visible.
Yeah, and actually, that's something else which is coming in. I believe, although I haven't seen anything on it recently, is the idea that if you hit a certain G level of braking, then your hazards would come on automatically as well.
I've seen some cars already do that, don't they? I think. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's something you can do, automatic emergency signaling, but I think it was going to be regulated for possibly EU regulation at some point. But I haven't seen any more of that lately, so maybe that's gone by the right by. But certainly a good idea. I mean, if you suddenly have to slam the brakes on, it's a good idea. People behind you know that there's something happening, and the hazards do show up a bit further out than just brake lights do.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it catches your eye as well, so yeah, it makes sense. So, and I suppose once you're getting away from the mechanical drivetrains, especially on a manual gearbox type car, and you're in this fully automated computer controlled thing, and you're just an input device with your right and left foot, you can do more around the safety and things like that, and the notifications and alerts and all that kind of. You can do a lot more with it then. Yeah. You're taking it. I suppose it's a very slow process, but it's that process to the fully automated vehicle, isn't it? Just one small step at a time. And once you're into a full EV, then where it's got complete control over it, and you're indicating what you want to do rather than having a physical cable between your right foot and the petrol valve.
Yeah, yes, because in my old car there's a cable for everything.
Yeah.
Whereas in in the new car, it's completely fly by wire. It's a very different experience. Well, very relaxed experience. Although a little voice at the back of my head says this thing is running on a lot of software. There's a lot of software involved here, and you used to write software, and your software was pretty bad.
Yeah, you are relying on some of the software. Although, the mechanical cables do have the issue. I had a Morris Marina that the earth strap came loose, so it was using the accelerator cable as its earth. And one day I was driving and it set on fire, the accelerator cable, because it got very hot from being in earth, and there was obviously oil and things on the oil on the cable and the engine bay set on fire. So the accelerator pedal stuck open. I did manage to pull over and put the fire out, just tap it down and drive home, and then go to scrapyard and get a new one. So simpler times.
Yes, you wouldn't be going to scrapyards today to collect components. Those days are long gone, I think, with very modern cars.
Yes, I mean that's it. I mean, I was, my grandfather showed me how to do the points on your car. With the little metal thing that you put in to do the gaps and your spark plug gaps and all that. Yeah, he could do timing as well with a flashing light that you would, like strobe light type thing. I don't think you do any of that nowadays, do you?
Not really, no.
Yeah, it's just like everything else, isn't it? It's just like a laptop. You don't start tinkering around with your jumper settings or anything like you would do on a computer a few years ago, do you? Everything's sealed.
Oh yeah,
left
IOQ and DMA. It's gone now. That's
yes,
it.
Yeah.
Config sys, all gone.
Yes.
Unless of course you're trying to make your Linux box work, in which case you get very familiar with the settings files very, very fast.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, how much time did you spend getting your IRQ channels to work with your sound card and your Sound Blaster 60, AWS 32, or Sound Blaster 16 in your DVD drive, CD drive?
Well, exactly. CD drive, you newfangled things. I'd say your Sound Blaster card and your 10-base T Ethernet card.
Yeah.
Sound? We didn't have sound in my day.
I can remember on my old TI 994A making the peripheral expansion box lights light up like Knight Rider. That was a great job. Having it, because each card had a little LED light on it, and you could program it so that it would do a across the front of the box in a very exciting fashion. But yes, those are the days. Kids
don't know they're born today, do they? They just get the computer and it works.
Exactly. I mean, we're to make do with if we had sound, it was lucky, and then the sound would be a few channels and a noise channel. But you tell kids that today, do they believe you? No.
No. Anybody that's ever heard the Ghostbusters music on a ZX Spectrum, which obviously didn't have a proper sound card, did it? It just had the beep. But
I think it was more Ghostbusters, wasn't that the one that they actually had the sample where it would say Ghostbusters?
Yeah, it was like, I was blown away by how this impossible technology on a ZX Spectrum in 1987 or whatever it was.
That was 84, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You see, you may have your fancy EVs, and we've got fancy lights, but I still get excited by 1-bit samples on a ZX Spectrum. Because that's what it was. It was 1-bit.
And I bet Garry was able to play marvelous tunes on his punch card reader.
Yes.
Actually, we used to play tunes on teletypes.
There we go.
Oh, and actually, one thing to mention as well. I don't know Loki on Disney Plus is back, and quite enjoying the show. But I'm really enjoying the aesthetics of the time variance thing. Absolutely, the set design is brilliant. And all the curves, seams, greens, and I recognise some Amiga UI in one of the scenes where it wasn't an Amiga on this. It was like a orange curved display, but the way that the display was rendered, sort of a window-ish type thing, but it looked like an Amiga or maybe an ST, but maybe it was just done on Linux to make it look, so design it to look like that. But I just love that brown and orange and the curved screens with the big.
It's just like at the computer museum.
Exactly, that's what it reminded me of.
So good, yeah. It's such good. I mean, that series. Whatever you may think about the story and things, the aesthetics is so good in that series. The design is excellent. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. It reminded me of that computer console you were at the Cambridge Museum. Yeah,
I was playing Colossal Caves. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yes,
absolutely.
And, I have, believe it or not, tried to buy one. You can get them, but they're so expensive to get a working one. Because you basically got to use you can get the terminal and then you say a Pi Zero can be used to pretend to be a mainframe really, because it's just a text-based terminal where they cost to get a working one. They're really expensive, and CRTs are getting. I hadn't realized how hard CRTs are to find now. That a working CRT is getting harder and harder to find.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you get a chance to watch Loki, don't worry about the story. Just enjoy the old computer terminals.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, you see more in season 1. Season 1, there's loads and loads of TV. There's stuff in that, and it's just, it looks. Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. It looks fantastic. But then we're both very old.
Yes, I think there is a theme there. Right. Well, I think that's all we've got time for this week. So, Richard, where's the best place to find you? Just search for you on Blue Sky or something like that.
Search me on Blue Sky or Mastodon. I am not on X.
No, I'm still on there. If they start charging, then I'm definitely out of there. Garry, where can we find you?
You find me everywhere at Garry WA. I don't think I'm on this platform. I'm not on. Not that I actually get many notifications from the other platforms, but we'll see. I
can tell you the engagement on X has dropped like a stone in the last 12 months. It's unbelievable. I used to get so much engagement on there, and now it's a wasteland. So they've done a great job in removing people or wherever it is, but I just don't get the same conversations they used to get. It's a real shame, but and they're not anywhere else replicated, so they're just not happening now.
That is a shame.
Yeah. Right, well, we'll be back same time, same place next week. I'm going to leave you with a track, Midnight Reflections. It's now available on Amazon, Apple Music, and Spotify, and all the usual places. We'll see you next week.
Cheerio.